As we continue to bask here in the Draftermath, reviewing the 2024 NFL Draft, we got the band back together, and our plus one today is an absolute home run. Hello, and how are you, everybody? Your old pals, Nick Fitzy Stevens and Andy Jumbo Hart of the Six Rings and Football Things podcast, continuing to dissect, discuss everything New England Patriots related, especially the 2024 NFL Draft, which is why today we put up the Pat signal and down came the thunder. Joining us today from NFL Media and NFL.com, a senior draft analyst and a man who has already forgotten more about football this morning than Hart and I could possibly ever learn in a lifetime. The one and the only Eric Edholm is in the house. Eric, great to have you with us today, pal.
Pleasure's mine. You guys are way too kind. You know that's not true, but that's all right. I'm not going to correct you.
Well, now is when we butter you up before we get into the nitty-gritty.
That's right.
Of just how much you hated the Patriots draft, or at least how little you think of their chances going forward. But you know what? Again, as I often maintain, in order to appreciate life at the top or to strive to get back there, sometimes we have to go to the depths, if you will, and touch bottom. And that's kind of where the Patriots are right now and have been for a while. So why don't I just softball you right from Jump Street here, Eric? Give me your overall thoughts on the Patriots' approach to the draft, their execution, and how you think the players they selected last weekend will fit in ultimately on the team.
Yeah, no, it was going to be fascinating to see the first non-Belichick draft in 20 plus years. And, we gotten so used to seeing, a certain type of player and, obviously certain annoyances, I'm sure, from Patriots fans about how the draft would go every single year. The results at the end of the day were always great until the last few years. So it really was fascinating to see what the differences would be. To me, what's funny, I don't know if you guys felt this way or not. Maybe I'm missing the mark here, but other than the Drake Maye pick, like if you look kind of down the line, I thought it was sort of a very Patriots-ish feel. Like, Javon Polk was the receiver that, look, he may not have lasted 5 more picks, but I don't know that he was universally viewed as a, first sort of portion of round 2 guy. Caden Wallace, I don't know that everybody felt like he should have been a day 2 pick, Layden Robinson, et cetera. It almost felt like back in the day when the Patriots would say, we like this guy, we're taking him. We don't care what the value is. And again, it often worked out. It was often, them being able to identify certain players for their specific scheme. So from that respect, it wasn't a whole lot different. Now the Maye pick is obviously going to kind of make or break, I think, this entire class, fairly or unfairly. That's the way it goes. First round pick as a quarterback kind of goes that way. So Maye was my number 4 overall player. He was, I had him as my number 2 quarterback behind Caleb Williams. I had him ahead of Jaden Daniels. I think Daniels probably has a little higher floor right now, or comes into the league with a little bit more stability and a little bit more preparedness for the NFL. Long term, that may not be the case. I worry a little bit about Daniels' sort of ability to hang in there as a running quarterback, as somebody who's going to play behind a not so great offensive line. And I think Maye may take a little time to develop. And that's really the key thing for the Patriots, is knowing when to hand over the keys, especially when they're not loaded on offense and when they don't necessarily have a bunch of identifiable, bedrock strengths right now on that side of the ball. That's going to be the big question, is how soon is too soon to throw him in? And how will he acquit himself if things aren't going great? I mean, that's the only reservation I think I have with the pick, is navigating this early part of his career.
So many of us in Patriot Nation had sort of settled on Drake Maye being the guy and wanting him to be the guy, kind of falling in love with, whether you compared him to Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, just lusting after the physical tools, because quite honestly, the last young quarterback we had was not overly gifted in terms of physical tools. So the ability to be young, run, big, strong arm. But because there's been a lot of opinions, you got Dan Orlovsky saying he needs to sit for 2 years, and there's all these questions, and he's raw. And then you have like Tim Hasselbeck locally on our station said he might be the most talented quarterback I've looked at in 10 or 12 years doing this. So in the end, assuming they don't break him, and I have this theory that you can't break a great quarterback. If you're truly special, you'll figure out Josh Allen week 2 goes in Buffalo and never looked back and went through the ups and downs, and here we are. But You mentioned it. Where is your sort of best case scenario, Drake Maye, worst case scenario, and most likely scenario?
Yeah, I wouldn't have put him as high as I did in my rankings if I didn't think he had the chance to be a Pro Bowl quarterback. I mean, to me, it's all there, like you said. Prototypical build, athletic, has athletic bloodlines, right? He's got a family of his dad played football at UNC. His brothers played baseball and basketball and at the highest level in college sports. And, I think he's got the right mental approach to the whole thing too. So, I mean, there's a lot going for him. People I heard some folks kind of rolling their eyes a little bit at his sort of aw shucks routine. I called some people who recruited him out of high school, who've known him for a long time. And I just said, I'm like, is this stuff legit? And they're like, that's who he is. That's the kid. He's not fake. Some people said that about Peyton and Eli when they came out, the Southern gentleman stuff and the aw shucks and golly gee and all that. They're like, no, that's just really who he is. And people loved him in that locker room. Like his favorite teammate was Sam Howell, and Howell loves him as well. I mean, that tells you something, a quarterback that in theory you were competing against. Like Howell didn't need to come out that last year, but he realized how superior a talent Maye was, and they stayed close. So, I think from a mental standpoint and just from a raw material standpoint, he has got the goods. What success looks like early on, I mean, look, I have a hard time believing he's not going to play this year. I get the argument for waiting and I think the first part is figuring out what can you trust in this offense. How much can Polk give you right away? How big a step does Demario Douglas take in year two? What do you have in your offensive line? From soup to nuts, right? Starters, backups, flexibility, all that stuff. I think you feel okay about tight end and running back. Like we kind of know what we have there. That's all right. But the other pieces I think are unknowns until you have a good grasp of what this unit can achieve with Jacoby Brissett. And when you've reached that point where he's not going to give you any more than it takes to win games, then you start asking, okay, is it now time for Drake? So I don't know, again, if that's 5 games, 10 games, the entire season, what? I suspect it's not going to be a 17-game starting season for Drake Maye. I think everybody's sort of comfortable with that idea. But if he gets half the season or even a quarter of the season to show himself out, you just want to see that he has the ability to make all these throws. You can live with a mistake here or there. And then you head into the 2025 offseason as, ready to throw around the cash that everybody promised this offseason and really kind of say, all right, he's got to get a speed receiver. He's got to get this type of guy. He's got to get this is what Drake needs to succeed. And then you can really kind of quantify what success looks like. But again, I see a Pro Bowl upside. Could he flame out? Sure. I mean, there have been other more talented quarterbacks who didn't make it in this league. But again, I feel pretty good about the entire package.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what ultimately people want him to become because the comps were there for Josh Allen. Is he sort of, a UNC country strong John Elway? Is he Farvian, if you will, to make a comp between Ron Wolf and the quarterback that ultimately helped redefine the Packer way, and now his son running the Patriots, bringing in his big hoss of a quarterback? I like the aw shucks routine. I love the affability, the positivity, the energy. The fact that the Maye boys seem to be like a Southern version of the Gronkowski brothers, which should cotton very well to New England as well. The fact that Drake Maye is 6'4", 2.25", and he's the smallest of the 4 Maye brothers is remarkable to me. Like, holy smokes, that's some stock that he's coming from right there. And I was somebody who kind of wanted the Patriots to move back, take Michael Penix and see if you could accrue another draft pick for the first round in hopes of leaving day 2 with a starting tackle, starting receiver, and a starting quarterback as well. But I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm seeing so far. The highlights are a little bit messy. Everyone's heard about the footwork, and it'll take some time. If he plays halfway through the season and it's out of need and he's ready, great. If he doesn't play the whole season because he's in McCartney, McAdoo's, and Van Pelt's kitchen still cooking and trying to figure things out, that's fine. Just don't rush and break the product. Or, as was done with Mac Jones, give him 4 coordinators in 4 years, one of which was a former defensive coordinator as well, because that was an absolute disaster. But Eric, as far as So we think Drake Maye can be something else. And, if he can turn charm into touchdowns one day at the field of Gillette, it's going to be great. But how about the rest of the team? Obviously, at NFL.com now, you can read Eric's analysis of the power rankings from 1 to 32 and how the recent draft affected them. Didn't really affect the Patriots.
Way down and you'll find the Patriots.
You gotta scroll.
Andy, it's so funny because I kept scrolling down and the scroll tool had to recalibrate 3 times because wow, man,
keep on
in the mid-20s. I hear the Price is Right guy yodeling on the way down. It was all the way down at 31, and they actually fell a notch from 30 to 31 in Eric Edholm's overall NFL power rankings. So let me ask you this. Did Elliott Wolf and company do enough, you believe, in their first draft in charge of the Patriots to address the many, many, many needs on this team?
Yeah, first of all, I got to say I'm rethinking how I used to do word counts. So I tell my editor, hey, I wrote 1,200 words. I wrote 800 words. Now I'm going to say it's a 3-screen recalibration thing. That's how I'm going to refer to it from now on. It's really long, I don't know. I wasn't sort of in love with a lot of the picks. First of all, if you want to work in reverse, Jaheim Bell, I thought was a great value in round 7. He's a fun player. I hate making the comp, but he's got some Jonnu Smith to him. I realized that wasn't a super popular player in New England, but that kind of a guy, an H-back, a talented pass catcher. He played running back for South Carolina for half a season and did a darn good job. So you can do some fun stuff with him. Joe Milton, you guys mentioned, the Wolf family legacy of kind of drafting multiple quarterbacks, and every year, they drafted a Hasselbeck and they drafted Aaron Brooks, and they always in the 90s sort of doubled up at that position, and were trading guys for future picks and stuff like that. I think it's smart. Joe Milton has all the tools you could ever want. Does this spell the end for Bailey Zappi? Probably, right? So there's some interesting developments with their last 2 picks. Marcellus Dial, I didn't spend a lot of time watching him, talking to some people who, feel like they had a better feel for him, thought it was a pretty good value pick at that point. And the thing is, you just kept hearing throughout the process, especially after Senior Bowl and Combine, the day 3 picks aren't going to be all that exciting. So if you can get a guy who runs mid-4s and has a 40-inch vertical jump and almost 11-foot broad jump and plays a premium position at defensive back, then in round 6, okay, you take him. And so those are the risks that I didn't really mind at all. I thought all 3 of those picks had some sense to them. Layden Robinson I had as more of a later day 3 pick. And again, it's always, you collect information from various sources, and their system may not be like every other team system. But I thought both those 2 picks, Robinson and Wallace, because I don't think Robinson can play outside. I think Wallace can. He did in college, obviously. Last year they tripled up at interior offensive line, the guard position. So, was it the best use of resources? I don't know. Javon Baker was an interesting player to watch. I watched one tape of him where he had 2 targets in a game. And those are the kind of games where I didn't really like what I saw, because there were some times where you felt like he lost interest if you weren't giving him a touch every 6-7 plays or something. It felt like his focus sort of drifted a little bit. Blocking assignments, running out routes. If your job is to take out the free safety, you got to take out the free safety. You know what I mean? Those are the little details that could prevent him from being great, because he has the physical ability. It's obvious. He ripped off some long plays in college. This sort of strikes me as the dice roll pick here. You might have something. I wouldn't count on anything rookie year, but that's going to be interesting. So where they play Wallace and how much of a role Polk has early on, to me, are kind of big storylines that I think are worth monitoring. Is Wallace your left tackle? Do you like him better at guard? I don't know. I haven't really heard the post-draft chatter there. To me, I had him just outside my top 100. I thought he was a right tackle. But again, these teams do this for a living. They're smarter than I am at this stuff. So I'll be curious to see how it all works out.
Sometimes they're smarter than you. Sometimes they're much dumber than you, and that plays out as well.
I'm
with you on the Wallace pick. they seem quite confident that he's a left tackle, and they're like, the only reason he's playing right is because Fashano's the 11th pick in the draft. And my retort to somebody was, so the NFL can't find 32 left tackles, but Penn State had 2 left tackles on their roster. Like,
Right.
that's what you're
Good
telling
point.
me. Tough sell for me, but we'll see.
Fair point.
And I do think that's a big question for them, that left tackle spot, in terms of what you talked about earlier, Maye's development and being out there. And like, if he's getting killed and it's a jailbreak, like, that doesn't give him a chance. The one thing that we haven't really touched on, I want to get your opinion, actually kind of 2 parts. So the draft was Elliott Wolf. I think it's clear that he is a need-based drafter if you go on this draft anyway. And he talked a lot about the Packer way, bringing the Packer way to New England. And we have an offensive coordinator, Alex Van Pelt, who has basically said he's bringing the Browns offense to New England. And I'm just wondering, as you marry those 2 things together for what is now the Patriots, how much confidence do you have in those 2 things, if that's true? If Elliott Wolf is the Packer way, well, the Packers have good young receivers. Should I count Polk and Baker as being good young? And then how comfortable are you with Van Pelt leading the development of Drake Maye?
Yeah. I mean, I think some of the Packers draft philosophy, is sort of traits based, right? Like, corners ideally have 32-inch arms, and receivers are ideally over 6 foot and over, 190 pounds and this arm length as well. And so there are some physical benchmarks. They will break their own rules every now and then, like they did last year with the blanking on his name, the Michigan State kid, Jaden Reed, who ended up having a really nice rookie year for him. But you look at the rest of their receivers, they're these gazelle types, these longer. Now, Baker's a little thinner, obviously not quite as tall, but the same sort of idea. And Polk's a well put together kid, who ran faster than I think a lot of people expected. Now, that's just one position, obviously. I mean, one of the things that I picked up from some Green Bay people too is when they draft offensive linemen, they like guys who played tackle in college at some point. Now, again, this may be differ from evaluator to evaluator, but whether they're projecting them to center, guard, tackle itself, they tend to go for those guys, even if they don't meet certain benchmarks. They'll kick them inside. Think of like Elton Jenkins or some of those guys they've had. So it's interesting. I mean, they've had really good success historically at finding those kinds of players. Now, it hasn't always worked out in the secondary, and they've had to get some veteran pieces. But what other team is ahead of the curve on that? Everybody needs a defensive back, right? So, and then the quarterback thing I mentioned earlier. I mean, if you read Ron Wolf's book, he spells it out pretty carefully. I know the book's 30 years old now or whatever it is, 28 or 30, something like that. But he said, we were looking to draft a quarterback almost every year. If there was one we liked, if there was one that we felt had a chance, and Brett Favre never missed a game. Aaron Rodgers, yes, had injuries. But they kept to that philosophy because they knew that if your quarterback goes down, this is why I didn't kill the Falcons for the Penix thing. If Kirk Cousins go down, their season is over, right? And they are kind of in windmill mode. So on the one hand, I'd love to see them go out and get other pieces to help the team. But on the other hand, it may not be the worst thing in the world to have a quarterback who's pretty good behind your starter. Back up your best investments and make sure they have a backstop there. So again, I'm ambivalent about it, but that's also the thinking that applies to New England drafting Joe Milton and just saying, we don't know what he is yet, but he's got something. Maybe he's a tight end down the road. Maybe he's the Falcons starting quarterback in 5 years, right? You never know, and having more assets is never a bad thing. So, you could definitely see flex of influence, I think, in that. And the Browns obviously want to have as many interchangeable parts offensively and that sort of thing. And that works with like the Bell pick and obviously some of the O-line picks if they're gonna find multiple spots for them. So yeah, you can start to see the early influences even with my Belichick draft joke in the early part.
Yeah, and look, hey, the Patriots have 5 quarterbacks right now on the roster. I'm not sure if they're going to carry 2 or 3. But last year, we know Van Pelt was not really the offensive coordinator. He was in title, but not in execution. That was Stefanski's job. And the Browns had to play 5 quarterbacks during that very turbulent off season. And that worked out for them all the way until when they got their junk stomped out in Houston. But that was pretty impressive nonetheless all the way through. And so I'm hoping now, I'm not really concerned with what kind of offense the Patriots are going to run this year. I don't think anyone's going to say like, holy smokes, did you see the play calling from Van Pelt and McAdoo this weekend? More so, it's just going to be like, make sure like Baker stays in line. Polk finds his role. And most importantly of all, take the time to bake and cook and develop and teach the pro game, work on the footwork, and get all the fundamentals down for Drake Maye. If they do that, but they run a very vanilla offense and they're at least watchable and competitive as opposed to the tire fire they were last year, Eric, I'm 100% on board with that. And as far as working off of old edicts, it doesn't bother me if Elliott works off of his dad's blueprint from 30 years ago in the Packer way, because for so many years, I think it was actually your coworker, Daniel Jeremiah, who unearthed like the Belichick draft compendium or all of his notes that like talking about always looking for a Mark Bavaro, the way a quarterback should operate, the size, strength, and play style of every position on the field. And it worked until it didn't. So, if there were shades of Belichickian drafting here this year with a splash of Packers and a touch of Browns, so long as, again, that they're competitive, that's fine. And when you look at the AFC East now, who do you think, because that's what we have to focus on first before we worry about conference-wide and league-wide for the Patriots, who do you think progressed, who do you think regressed, and how do you think the AFC East shapes up this year?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting division. I mean, the Dolphins, I think, left such a bad taste in their fans' mouths, and everybody watching them just sort of felt fraud. Like they were the fool's gold last year. I mean, after 4 weeks or whatever, I don't remember how, the early part of the season, people were saying best offense ever, right? And then by the end of the year, they're freezing their tails off in Arrowhead and looking feckless. I mean, they were a joke by that point. So how good are they? I mean, how Chop Robinson, nice first round pick. I get why they did it. Same reason we were talking about with, with the backing up your best strengths. Yeah, they have some pretty good players there, but when they all got hurt last year, they were SOL, right? So, I mean, they still have juice. They still have the ability to win games. I think they're going to be tough. And, Buffalo, I can't argue that they're a better roster now than they were a year ago. They were even a flawed team a year ago in some respects. They poured it on late. They fought to get into the dance. After that New England loss, they looked pretty awful, though. I mean, that was pretty deep in the season when they sort of looked to be falling apart. I don't know what to make of this team. Does Sean McDermott feel this pressure to win now in an offseason when they let Mitch Morse and Stephon Diggs and other guys go? Trey White. I would assume they're still thinking of themselves as the leaders of the pack. And then there are the Jets. Like, we forget. I mean, they were, I don't want to say everyone's darling last year, but they were certainly the team that everybody thought could have that one sort of gum it up season with Aaron Rodgers and this draft class that was amazing the year before. And let's put it all together. And then everything fell apart. So I guess you'd argue that there are 3 unknowns in the division, 3 unknowns with maybe higher promise than the Patriots right now, at least what we know. But, all 3 feel like they have trapdoors or some kind of, pitfall to them as well. So I think it's a tough division, but I also, can think of a handful of divisions that are, at least right now, more stabilized,
So for years, every one of these conversations would have had Bill Belichick at the center of it because he was the center of the Patriots world. The name we really haven't mentioned yet, I'm not sure if we've even said it, is Jerod Mayo, the head coach of the New England Patriots. And I'm sure you've been observing, you referenced the burn cash comment earlier, and he's had some ups and downs with things he said. One of your coworkers posted a story this week talking about a mural of Jerod Mayo in the Patriots football area at Gillette Stadium as part of the sort of refab of everything they're doing there.
Right.
From afar, just where do you think, because you mentioned Sean McDermott, you mentioned Mike McDaniel, like the head coach matters, win or lose. We're going to be talking about the head coach. From what you've seen in this very short, first 100 days of the administration type analysis, where do you think Jerod Mayo is? Is he an asset for the Patriots or a liability?
I thought it was fascinating that he was able to survive last year. And obviously there was a deep connection there with Robert Kraft and a comfort level. And, but he's also sort of done business that way, right? I mean, that's kind of how he got Belichick. Belichick was the the acolyte. He was the understudy when he first sort of showed off his skill in front of Kraft, and then able to get him a few years later. And this was a little bit more of a seamless transition, I guess. But it's tough when everybody's kind of trying to put some immediate distance from the Belichick era. Like, thank God that's over. But a guy that he drafted, the highest draft pick he made for a long time, I think, unless I'm forgetting somebody, but brings back his DC, if you will. And now that's the guy running the show. I'm sure it'll be different. I'm sure there'll be some things that, Jerod Mayo has been writing down in his notepad the last couple of years. Won't do this if I ever get a chance. I'll play it differently. And that's what coaches do. I mean, I think they keep these either physical or mental binders of the things that their previous bosses did well and didn't do well. And then that's going to be kind of the core of when they go into an owner's office for an interview. They say, this is what I've learned over the years and how I would play it. Like you said, obviously, I think there's a getting comfortable with the captain's chair element to it. Bill handled so many things over the years. Too many probably, but still, I mean, that's the thing you forget is that, he dealt with the media, he dealt with the players, he dealt with the personnel staff, he dealt with the owner, he dealt with a million. There are so many people demanding things of you as the head coach. And, there's only so much you can dole out to other people on some level. The buck stops there. And, this is a guy who's been in the spotlight from, high school, SEC, pro football, up in, a team captain type. I mean, he's always kind of been the accountable one. I think in the end, he'll figure it out. But navigating this early phase of the Maye, transfer of power, if you will, that's going to be his first big task. I think you're right, Fitzy, when you said, like, I don't care what this season produces other than some kind of development and positive momentum for Maye. I don't think, Jerod Mayo would say that unless he was pumped full of quite a bit of truth serum. But I think he's thinking that same way where, look, we need to be competitive, smart, tough. And the biggest factor is we have to head into 2025 knowing that we have an asset at quarterback. I think that's the best way I can phrase it.
That we have developed and not distressed the asset, because the development of the previous asset was underway, and then the constant distressing of it began, so much so that it broke, and now it thinks it's a rapper in Jacksonville. And so be it. I would, obviously Mac Jones doesn't get his fifth-year option picked up. It's a shame what happened. That'll be a cautionary tale to be told for years as to how not to develop your first-round quarterback, whether he had the physical tools and the assets or not as well. And yes, I think a lot of Pats fans would agree. They just want something positive this year. They just want signs of hope. They just want a beacon, something to look forward to as well.
Yep.
And it's funny you mentioned that Bill did everything, because Andy and I used to bat around here on the podcast. It's funny. Belichick's mantra is do your job. Well, why do you have 9 jobs, Bill? You're supposed to work smarter, not harder as you get older. And I think that the aggregate sum of all the stuff that he brought on himself became too much. And ultimately, the Patriots wanted to get rid of him as personnel manager and de facto GM so badly, they were willing to lose the greatest coach of all time. So, but here we are. We'll see how Mayo handles things. Last kind of just now outside of New England, Longview, since we don't get a chance to speak with you too often, Eric. I'm not sure if Andy has a broad overall NFL question for you, but
Super Bowl pick right now.
Actually, no, that's what I was going. That's what I was going with. I wanted to hear Eric's take. All right, I'm gonna put actual grown adult human American money on this. My Super Bowl 59 pick, and I think it would be a blast.
If you say the Patriots, I'm coming through the screen.
Texans, Packers.
Okay. Oh, I don't hate it.
It would be a blast. It absolutely would be a blast.
Fun?
In New Orleans, by the way, next year, fellas. Just keep that in mind. I know the Patriots had a very famous Super Bowl there, and it is rumored to be a fun city to visit. I don't know. I haven't been there in a minute. It's one of my favorites. I would love to see it. You'd have one semi close by fan base rolling in from the West. You'd have another pretty strong traveling group. The only team that I've seen outnumber Steelers fans at a game like in a Super Bowl. So that was pretty impressive. And just the football aspect of it, right? Jordan loves CJ Stroud. It would be really cool. So, I think the Texans are an easy team to be encouraged about. I have them number 6, and I kept thinking, 6th, man, like, are they that good? And I kept having to kind of step back and say, look, I'll probably change this at least once between now and August. I'm going to be wrong about the order. We all know that. There'll be half a dozen teams I'm going to look back a year from now and laugh at because they're hilariously ranked. But are we too early on them? I don't know. Are we too soon on Green Bay? Look at the division they play in. I mean, Lions aren't going anywhere. Minnesota got their quarterback. Chicago got their quarterback. There's just so many factors. That's the thing. I don't think I have that super strong, instinct for a Super Bowl pick. I think it was around this time last year that I thought, Cowboys, that's going to be my, shake them up kind of pick. And they looked pretty good for a while, and then it all just sort of looked terrible. So I guess I haven't had that strong Super Bowl vibe yet. I don't know that I'm going chalk with Kansas City again. I don't know that I trust the Ravens 100% right now, even though the talent's clearly there. I feel like there is at least the potential for that Packers-Texans slightly off the wall type of Super Bowl this year.
I'm going to say there's no chance of that happening. I'm going to say no chance just because of this. I actually think the toughest thing to do is make that transition to winning when you're expected to. It's one thing to achieve, overachieve. We're developing. It's why I was impressed with the Lions this year. I thought they faced that challenge of, now everybody thinks we're good. We're supposed to be in the hunt for a Super Bowl, and they were in a hunt for a Super Bowl. And I think the chances, no disrespect, Fitzy, to your pick, love it, mean it, sure. But 2 young quarterbacks that are in that developmental, take the franchise to the next level, both of them doing it in the same year in a world where Patrick Mahomes still exists and the 49ers still exist and all these other challenges still exist. One of them, possible, Fitzy, but I'm going to say there's no chance that both of them get to the Super Bowl.
Probably not, and that's okay. It's more I'm just trying to manifest it or want it or wish it into existence, just because I think in a lot of ways, Andy and Eric, it would be a great template for the Patriots to see, like, look what can happen when you nail your draft and you get your receivers and you take the time to develop your quarterback, or as you pointed out last year, Hart, so adroitly, that, if you just nail the pick and then you're confident in having this guy start over the backup and you surround him like Houston did, especially prioritizing offensive line and getting good weapons to develop, then maybe, just maybe, you can make the leap, not on other people's schedule, but on your own. And by the way, having a young, intelligent, aggressive coach that comes from a defensive minefield, that may help as well. Look, Eric, we'll just chew up the rest of your Thursday if you give us a chance to. So we need we need to set you free onto your next 1,200 word or 3 scroll down column at NFL.com. But we'd love to have you back. Maybe we can catch up with you in the summertime for a little season preview or something like that. But this has been a delight. Thanks so much, man.
See, it's catching on. I like that. It's already caught on. Yes, I would love to. I'd be happy to come back on anytime. Love what you guys do. Keep up the great work and keep your heads up. 31 isn't bad. You guys will be higher by than that at some point, I promise.
Could be worse. It could be 32.
Right.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go.
There's a bottom.
I love it. Now I know how Jets fans feel, and I never thought I would understand that. He is Eric Edholm from NFL.com. You can read his musings there at the flagship of the National Football League, and follow him on the socials at Eric ERIC_Edholm EDHOLM. Thanks so much, brother. Have a great day.
Have a great day, fellas. Take it easy.
Amen. Eric Edholm from NFL.com here on the Six Rings of Football Things podcast. All right, we thank Eric Edholm for joining us earlier for a little draft recap right there as well. Andy, I got to say, for a man who believes that the New England Patriots are the only are the team just atop the worst team in the power rankings in the NFL, the Carolina Panthers, who I believe actually had a pretty good draft. Maybe their thin-skinned owner, David Tepper, did actually let the GM and the head coach do the drafting this time. He doesn't sound so. It wasn't such a dour tone that he struck about them. It's just sort of like, yeah, I mean, they made their way down there, and now the climb back up begins. I think it's a good reality check for all of us that while we believe the ship is turning around, there's still a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and there's just so many questions, right? Like, we kind of went through it in coaching, in players, in positions, and and some of them will be home run positives. I don't know which ones, but I do not think that Elliot Wolf is a boob. to the effect like every pick is wrong, everybody sucks, and the coaches all suck, and everything sucks, and this is just going to implode. I don't believe that. But like Ed said, like Javon Baker, who's, you know, a really interesting player. He is truly a diva receiver. Now, is that the good part of the diva receiver, the bad part of the diva receiver, some blend of the two? Does Jalen Polk, who's the mature, safer receiver, are they able to have some relationship that influences Baker and takes him in the right direction? Does AVP do? I have no idea, but that's, you know, Drake Maye. Is he legit? If he's legit, everything else is awesome. So, yeah, no, I think it's probably realistic. I mean, we're busting his balls for having him 31st. They pick 3rd in the draft, so they should be 30th, right? So he's got him one spot lower than their draft pick, basically. And that's a rotation with the Commanders and whoever else based on. So he has them where their record says they should be, and we'll find out if that's accurate or if they're going to overachieve from that.
And we'll get to at the tail end here of the Pats Paris second leg of the most current episode of Six Rings and Football Things. We will get to when it comes to
second
looking
leg,
to
is this Juju Smith-Schuster podcast?
Hey, keep it
that'd
clean.
Be the third leg. Are we doing 3 legs today?
Jeez, man, just when we get the
I
guest
brought your
out
dog
of here,
back in. He was bored out of his mind when you were talking. He left, and now he came back. He likes humor. Andy's funny, says the doggy.
Great. So good. Now you know your audience.
Dogs and kids.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll get to a little bit about the Patriots possibly picking at the top of the draft in 2025 later on, as some far too early mocks came out. And that will dovetail nicely into our last little note, which will be me working your side of the street in a very special You People segment that we'll wrap things up with. But first,
whoa.
I know. Yeah. Believe it or not, actually. All right. Let's get to some of the other stuff going on in the wide world of Patriots right now in the Pats Paris. Your initial response to Elliott Wolf once again locking down the core players, re-signing their own, and rewarding the ones that have performed for the Patriots in recent year. The 4-year, $92 million Christian Barmore deal with $41.5 million guaranteed. Spoiler alert, I loved it.
If he plays for 4 years, this is a steal. As long, you know, there's some questions. He's dealt with a knee injury in his career. That was a little bit of a question, I guess, even going back to Alabama. But if he's healthy, I think this is an absolute steal. $40 million guaranteed for a guy that I think has Pro Bowl to all pro potential on the defensive line. We've seen where these contracts have gone. These contracts balloon up. And also, my guess is if he reaches said all pro or Pro Bowl status in like 2 years, he'll be talking about, yeah, remember that deal I signed? We need to talk about that again. I don't really like that deal anymore. But
I'd be fine with if he feels the need to say he needs to renegotiate his deal. Then that means he is absolutely dominated in an Aaron Donald-esque fashion. And look, if we can get the Christian Barmore, who on Christmas Eve absolutely just wrecked the Denver Broncos on in front of a nationally televised audience on a regular basis, like he was truly one of the most consistent players on a team riddled with inconsistency last year. The only constant being that the defense tried every week and the offense was going to embarrass itself. Then this is a steal and a deal for them. And it sends a nice message too. Kick ass, get in line. Guess what? You can get paid and you can stay.
Yeah, and it's what Elliott Wolf has talked about. And I said it at the time. I think people misconstrued it when he said draft, develop, and treat people the right way. And people took that as some shot at Bill and his personality. And I didn't think it was that. I think it was a sign Jacoby Myers. Sign your guys that do things the right way, treat them the right way. And that means, as Giselle said, respect and appreciation. And in the NFL, respect and appreciation comes with a piece of paper that has money written on it, and they sign it and you sign it, and we agree to have a longer term relationship. And they've done that with Duggar. They've done that with Barmore. I think they would like to and are trying to do that with Ramondre Stevenson next in line in that next year's class of free agents. So you're building we've talked about this. We had a lot of talk, I forget when exactly, but about like who your core is, what your core is going to look like, the jersey rules, whose jerseys are you going to have for sale in the pro shop because they are stars who are under long-term deals. And now you have some of those. Like I would throw Drake Maye in there. He's now part of your core and your culture and all
Here's
that.
the only problem. You're not going to sell a lot of Drake Maye jerseys because people are already just putting his name on the back of Jones on the 10s that they already own. And some of those could have very well have been repurposed Garoppolos.
You people, cheapskates. You cheapskates.
Oh, coming from you, that is rich.
I was actually considering buying my son one. I was on Fanatics the other night looking.
I told my 11-year-old that he's getting a Drake Maye jersey, the 100%.
Well, see, the problem, you're in the bad range of they outgrow them. My son is getting
Oh,
close to
always
the range
size up.
where I can get him a jersey and know it's going to last like into college or whatever,
Mhm.
into adulthood. And then after that, he can buy his own goddamn jersey and I don't have to foot the bill anymore unless it's Christmas or birthday. But yeah, and we both have talked about the North Carolina ones. Hey, fanatics, if you have a monopoly, please provide the product you're supposed to. Get some gosh darn Drake Maye North Carolina jerseys made, jackasses.
Yeah, you'd be selling them like hotcakes up this way because we're waiting for the May 10s as well to come at the Patriots Pro Shop. I'm sure that'll be a top seller in the NFL this year as well. There's a high degree of affability. Hell, dude, I even fell for the other night watching somebody surfaced up a video from like a year and a half ago of Drake Maye just cooking a burger at a diner in the Chapel Hill area. And first of all, he did a damn good job. It was well seasoned. He went double cheese, triple slice of bacon, extra pickles, perfectly done. But also back to what we were talking about with Eric, and I think just sort of what's going, part and parcel here in Pat's Nation right now, the positivity. He just seemed like a really fun kid who was happy to be there. And that sort of like, I'm not sure if I'm really happy to be here or I'm always over analyzing and beating myself up like Mac Jones. Drake Maye looks like he's incapable. Like I'm sure he knows his way around a playbook and I'm sure he knows how to play the game, and sports is what he lives for. But he almost looks like he has the mindset, Andy, that this team is going to need of, S word, that didn't work out. Oh, well, we'll just get out there again and get after it.
Yeah. And I mean, the comparisons keep writing themselves. I don't know it well enough yet, but it's Gronk. From the brothers to the goofiness that is genuine with Gronk. I think Eric Edholm used the word genuine for
Gronk,
Drake
the
Maye.
QB. Ooh,
And
I love that.
Gronk was one of the smartest players that this team ever had. And I mean that in football sense, like knowing what to do, when to do it. And I would also say off field, we've talked about this too. As much as he liked to party, he knew where the line was. He didn't cross the line. He had the frickin' goon-driven bus to make sure there were no DUIs and no stupidity. And
he never drove himself to charity golf events. He never drove, like he would go get his IVs at the stadium. Like he made sure that someone picked him up. His dad and his brother, his older brother Gordy, made sure he didn't spend his salary. He would only spend endorsement money. Like,
so don't tell me he was dumb or like immature. No. He had fun. He lived the life he wanted to live.
Fun,
and if
dumb.
Drake Maye, now it's different as a quarterback. You have to kind of alter the script a little bit for a quarterback because you are the be-all, end-all leader of the team, face of the team. It's a little bit different. But if Drake Maye is the quarterback version of a Gronkowski, I love it. I absolutely love it because Gronk, you know this, my favorite player that I ever covered in all senses of the word, on the field, off the field, guy to deal with, the whole damn thing, charitable. And we're seeing bits of that. There was also another video for, I think, Cane's Chicken, where Drake Maye was driving the truck. They did a food truck one day, and he actually called the owner, and he's like, am I allowed to actually drive the truck? Can I just like drive around town? And the guy's like, no, leave the truck parked and just serve chicken. And that's a goofy thing that like Gronk would ask to do of the CEO of Raising Cane's Chicken. So I am all in. And I said this the other day on the rate, like now it is hope time. You should have nothing but hope as a Patriot fan, as you should be hoping you get up to 21 in Eric Edholm's power rankings. And you should hope that you have the quarterback of the future. And you should hope that Polk is an impact receiver and he teaches Baker how to be a, well-rounded, hardworking impact receiver and all of these things. Now, not all of them will happen for the positive, and we'll get to reality come August or September or October. But now you should have every hope in the world. And Barmore is part of that. The leadership is part of that. I do need to talk about, let's pause for a second.
Yeah.
I hope they paint over the mural of Jerod Mayo at Gillette State. That's a terrible idea. That is, I like Jerod Mayo. I have faith that Jerod Mayo is going to be a good coach. I hate living, present, current people having murals of themselves paint like
everything else that I heard about in the Cameron Wolf interview sounded good.
Fine.
Taking down to do your jobs and, like whatever, it's like accountability, except what, like there were all sorts of like new messages and mantras posted, which sound great to me. Like awesome, great. But like, yeah, being alive and then being, made a portrait, like that's A-Rod country right there.
Absolutely. That's A-Rod, LeBron, some of the biggest douches of our generation sports-wise. So I said this on the radio this week, much like the 16-0 banner that just kind of quietly and conveniently disappeared from Gillette Stadium along the way over the years. let's quietly and convenient. Maybe a guy trips while carrying a bucket of paint and it goes all over the. Oh, geez,
oh no, we have spilled the paint.
Right. What do you want? Stop. My bad, Gerod. Because that needs to go. Other than that, I'm fine with everything that's going on because I think Elliott Wolf. Forget grading the draft. So Elliott Wolf. Let's grade Elliott Wolf in his first, not just draft, but run up to the draft, off season, re-signings, signings. Because supposedly he is now having to interview for his job, I guess. Like there could be an interview process here.
What else does he have to say aside from everything he's done for the past 5 months?
For me, absolutely nothing. I am all in. I'd give him an A. Yes. I even liked that he lied to me because I like to be lied to when it's necessary to do your job. The Thursday before the draft, he sat with a straight face. If you lie to me and it's the right thing to do, then we're good. He sat with a straight face and he said, because of what we've done this offseason, we feel like we don't need to draft from a position of need. We have NFL receivers. We have NFL offensive linemen. We feel good about this. We could take any quarterback. It was all a lie. He wanted Drake Maye. He knew he was taking Drake Maye. Then he was going to get a receiver and a tackle right after that because he knew he needed a receiver and a tackle right after that, just like we needed it. But he lied to me to try to make it work. All of it. He tried to trade up with the Bills. Didn't work. Had a better offer on the table. They didn't take it. Hey, can't do that. Whatever. But the totality of everything he did, I'm all in on Elliott Wolf. Give him an A. Actually, don't give him an A. Give him 2 other letters. GM. He'd prefer those.
Don't just give him an A. Give him GM. You know what? Actually, hold on. The judges will allow it. The judges will allow that.
That's Andy. Good. Because you'll read it on weei.com.
I was going to say, you're just workshopping freaking material on me right now.
Don't give Elliott an A. Give him a GM.
And as we record right now, I got to catch up after we're done today. Jerod Mayo will be joining the Rich Eisen show today. So we'll see what he has to say in a Thursday appearance on the Rich Eisen show on the Roku channel.
Why are you talking so much? Maybe talk less, Gerod.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are saying right now that Jerod Mayo, considering he goes this way, he goes that way, he offers up this, he takes back that he may need to just sort of dial it back a little while, or maybe the week after the draft is when he continues talking, and now maybe he'll disappear for a little while and just go back to the lab, figure out how they're going to develop and deploy all of these new selections. We'll see about that. Let's see real quick. Let's get to, just want to touch on, it's not that they're that big a deal, but the Patriots also have a veritable boatload, a cavalry of non-roster camp invitees and 10 undrafted free agents that they, signed to deals as well. I don't know if any one of them is going to make the team. We have
Fenwick. Bishop Fenwick's going to make it.
You'll hear these names potentially once, people. So here we go. Jet Bush, linebacker, Texas. John Tree Hunter, linebacker, Georgia State. John Morgan III, edge rusher out of Arkansas. Caleb Ford Dement, cornerback out of Texas State. Haven't even heard of a lot of these schools, although there are some HBCUs represented, like Mikey Victor, cornerback out of Alabama State. Del Pettis, safety out of Troy. That's a need, but I think it was you who said Marcellus Dial could very well play safety for the Patriots, and I wouldn't hate it. Andy's selection to make the team, Deshaun Fenwick, running back out of Oregon State. He's a big dude. You'd love to, a 6'2", 225 running back. What is he, the new Chicago Bears punter? Jacob Warren, tight end out of Tennessee. Zuri Henry, offensive lineman out of UTEP. Holy smokes, this guy is a unit, and he's ripped for being, he's like 6. What is he, like 6? He put up 26 reps at 225 at the combine. He's an absolute specimen. And finally, Charles Turner, offensive lineman, primarily a center out of LSU. So your pick to make it out of that group is Fenwick, because the depth at running back is nothing to write home about that guy.
Yeah, non-existent. And you know me, I kind of like big backs. I kind of liked Kevin Harris. That hasn't really panned out, worked out, done anything. So I'll move on to my next big back, and that's Fenwick, because, you know, obviously Ezekiel Elliott signs again. I guess not resigns, signs again with the Dallas Cowboys.
Good for him. Our leading receiver last year, mind you.
A great year. I would have taken him back in a heartbeat, but he's gone. You have Antonio Gibson, who has a bit of a fumbling issue that needs to be cleared up, which concerns me. You have Ramondre Stevenson, who was dinged up at times last year. you don't have any depth. So I don't rule out a veteran signing, and I'm not going to tell you I've done all my homework to check which veteran running backs are still available. I feel like that's always a position where you can sign somebody. I always use the example of Antoine Smith joined the Patriots very late in the process in 2001 and ended up being their lead back on a Super Bowl team.
That's
but
right.
I give Fenwick a shot just because of the situation and the circumstances, and sometimes that's enough. And if he can, I mean, the guy had, 2,000 total yards over his career for Oregon State. I don't rule out him being the one to start the new streak of rookie free agents.
No, it very well could be. And that'd be great because the Patriots, if you didn't or were unaware of this audience, the Patriots went 19 years, 19 with an UDFA making the active 53-man game day roster. And last year of all years, when Malik Mania, what a sad state of affairs it was that the only thing we had, our North Star of excitement last year was Malik Cunningham. That Malik Mania was running wild, and he actually didn't make the initial 53-man roster, breaking the streak. We'll keep an eye on those. And one guy to keep your eye on, I apologize for not having his name. He played at Peru State. The Patriots have also a non-roster invitee to camp. This dude who's 290 pounds, a defensive tackle, and also a punter.
Excuse me?
I mean, yeah, literally just like my feeling on this is like, the perfect Patriot doesn't exist. Oh, wait a second. Hold on. Actually, no. The most perfect Patriot player in history is right here. His name, according to Ethan Hurwitz of Hurwitz Sports, Peru State defensive tackle / punter, Devin Adams.
I like it. So he could put a new spin on, instead of roughing the punter, it could be roughing, the punter. The punter hit somebody too hard, and we're throwing a flag.
Holy mackerel. This guy is he's a giant.
I love these kind of stories this time of year. Now, obviously, most of them don't even make it to like mid-May. They're gone in early May, and like enjoy it while you can. But I love this time of year where these schools you've never heard of, these players that are just looking for a shot and an opportunity and have some strange story or whatever behind them. I like that. Before we wrap up, we should probably also touch on one last name to keep an eye on. It's an easier name to come across. What was his name? Devin Adams. His name is Bill Belichick, and he'll be Sunday night on Netflix taking part in something that there's few things that have intrigued me in this world of Patriots of late more than Bill Belichick attending the Tom Brady roast on Netflix.
Oh, Andy, not just attending, participating.
No, I know. That's what I mean. And I don't know what to make of it. It could go awesome. It could go terribly. It could... I made a bet.
What's he going to do? Is he honestly going to do a set, or is he just going to show game film for 5 minutes and just shit on Brady?
Well, can I make a prediction that there is some joke in the form of, they could roast me, but I'm pretty sure that already happened. It was called The Dynasty on Apple TV or something.
Oh.
I feel like there's going to be something like that.
I might actually, you know what, Andy? I might,
You going to steal from me again?
No, I was going to say I'd give you credit. No, I've been busy writing a roast that I'm going to film and put up on socials tomorrow and probably get ridiculed for, which is just fine because I have no shame. That's an excellent joke. Wait, hold on.
I'll tighten it up the wording a little bit, but
that's all right. I don't want to give away anything else right now because I want to wait, but I think it could be fascinating. I do. We already have confirmed guests from Moss. So Moss will roast, Edholm will roast, Drew Bledsoe, Bill Belichick. Who is the other? There's one other former Patriot that's going to be there. I mean, it's Gronk. I mean, it's going to be,
and they all have good material.
Be Trainwreck Central, dude, or it can be phenomenal. I'm looking forward to you live tweeting it as much as I'm going to as well. You know what? You Keith and I should almost jump on the dork machine like right afterwards and do like an instant reaction to it.
A dork 6 rings crossover, never done before.
Are you kidding? I mean,
brought to you by the WB, who used to always have crossovers of all their weird superhero shows.
And then they made it the CW, and people were like, "What the hell is the CW?
Why do you change the letters?"
And how did it become CW from UPN meeting up with the WB? I'm still confused. I did have, let's see, one is Jacoby Brissett. He was volunteering for the Patriots Community Foundation this week in Rhode Island, said he's excited to be back.
What do you think his record will be in the 4 starts he gets this year?
I think he's going to get 8 starts, and he'll be 2-6.
8 starts?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like that idea.
Let's see what else. Oh, Devin McCourty said on Up and Adams, the K Adams show on FanDuel TV, that
Hey, girl.
Jerod Mayo asked McCourty to join the Patriots staff, and he declined.
I would.
Didn't want to get right back into coaching. Wanted to take a little time away from football right now to get his life in gear. And I say, great choice. Good job by McCourty, because he's spending a lot of time with his family and he's killing it on NBC. He's doing an awesome job for them. So as much as we'd love to have D-Mac back in the fold, like the Patriots have Zeus Hightower as a linebackers coach, I applaud the decision and celebrate every and anything D-Mac these days. An NFL note I just saw a few moments ago, Andy. Steelers running back Jaylen Warren was at some sort of football forum talking to fans and said their special teams coordinator, this is for out-of-the-box thinking for your Patriots this fall, special teams coordinator of the Steelers discussed the possibility of having Justin Fields return kicks under the new kickoff rules.
I don't hate it. I mean, the new
neither
kickoff
do
rule,
I.
anybody you can put back there that can run, because they basically have to like break through one little, it's like those old 4th and short plays where a team hits it for a big play. That's how these kickoffs are going to work. So yeah, have an explosive playmaker, especially if you're not sure the explosive playmaker can play quarterback. Get what you can out of him for the 1 year you have him. Well, guaranteed 1 year that you have him. So I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
He's not going to be the start. I don't think he's going to. Everyone's like, oh, he's definitely going to be the starter. Even though they didn't pick up his 5th-year option and it's a risky game to trade anything for a quarterback who may never see the field, I'm not guaranteeing you or telling you right now that he's going to be their starter. I think Russell Wilson will put up a hell of a fight in camp.
Russell Wilson had a pretty good year last year.
That's why I wanted the Patriots to sign him as the bridge quarterback.
Dink.
I know he's a dinkus, but maybe
he's a bridge that thinks he's the freaking show, and I don't want that. I got a bridge that knows he's the bridge and is going to get to the other abutment and say, Drake May, take it away.
And finally, Andy, as promised, I plan on and mean to deliver in this very special edition of You People here on the Six Rings and Football Things podcast. A decision was made above our pay grade recently. Unfortunately, the cutbacks were made with our parent company, Odyssey. And unfortunately, we lost a member of the Six Rings community, not in general or in the long run, but rather just from being able to work with us. Mike Cadlick, unfortunately, his position was eliminated within the company, so we no longer have Mike's services here on Six Rings as a guest and a co-host with Andy, with me, and whomever. We don't have him on the radio, and most importantly, or most unfortunately, we don't have Mike's services at the .com, where he was doing an awesome job as our first-year rookie beat guy, blogging, writing, and contenting his ass off on a daily basis. Now, that is what it is, be that as it may, if you will, as Tommy Curran likes to so often say. People now, like yourself, myself, have to make up for the shortcoming of not having Mike's services available. So now I find myself having to do things like blog some innocuous and inane content because it should be covered on our website on a regular basis. Not exactly the world I want to live in or the job that I chose. It kind of chose me, and you and I being guys that whenever the boat is taking on water, we bail it out, we grab an oar, and we try to get to shore. So this week, I took it upon myself to blog out something that I thought, this strikes me as something that Mike Cadlick probably would have written, and he was doing such a good job. Let me see how I can help. I noticed that a number of websites, as I believe I previously mentioned on this podcast, had posted their far too early 2025 mock drafts. The Athletic had one from Dane Brugler. There was also one from PFF, Andy's favorite website, and one that I actually appreciate and believe to do a very good job, the 33rd Team. The Athletic had the Patriots picking 3rd overall in 2025. PFF had the Patriots selecting 2nd overall. That would be Will Campbell, offensive tackle out of LSU, according to them. That means the Patriots probably will suck in 2024. And the 33rd Team had the New England Patriots selecting 1st overall. That means they would be the worst team in 2024. And they would select edge/linebacker James Pierce Jr. out of Tennessee. Just a quick note and nugget. I went and watched some James Pierce footage. Holy smokes, can that guy get after the passer? Anyway, I posted these in a piece and I said how silly all of this is to be already looking this far in the future. Could this be the reality of what we're looking at in the Patriots this year? Or it could be taking receipts season. I tried to be light of tone, but also informative, without providing too much analysis. The clapback and the hate storm that I received for basically just aggregating this innocuous content that other people produced, for which I applied no real opinion. As a matter of fact, on Twitter, I actually wrote, zero chance the Patriots are picking in the top 10 next year. Get out of here with this crap. That's my true opinion. That's what I can share on Twitter, which is the same place. And I know it's a cesspool. And yes, now I understand why Andy Hart likes to argue with people while he's waiting in line on a Friday for a freaking pizza. You people, my people, us, Patriots fans, I have met and befriended, and I would call several people that I have gotten to know through social media, through Twitter, through the Patriots over the last 15 years, some of my favorite people and some of my best friends in this life. But folks, if you're going to take crap like this so seriously, such that you say nasty things about someone else that you can't take back, that can be screenshotted and held against you, and you have nothing better to do than to get angry at somebody who you know lives, eats, sleeps, breathes, and wants nothing more than his favorite football team to be interesting, competitive, and fun again, then that's a you problem, not a me problem. And I'm sorry to have to take Hart's language and say you people, but holy smokes, get a freaking grip. And I know I might be making more of this than I should, but I found it galling that people would say the things that they would say, criticize and drag someone through the mud over sharing something as stupid as 2025 mock drafts. Good day to all of you, you people.
These are your people. These are your people. You helped create.
Unbelievable. I know that was a bit of a rant. I needed to get that off my chest.
Holy Moses. And I'm going to make a declaration, a guarantee, and a promise. The Patriots will not make the first pick in the 2025 NFL draft. There is no chance they make that pick, because if they have that pick, I'm not saying they're not picking in the top 5. I'm not saying they might not earn the first pick, but they won't make it. They'll trade it, because a quarterback is going to go with the first pick. That's how this business works. And They will get a haul for the number 1 pick, whether it's the Beck kid out of Georgia.
It's foolishness. Carson Beck, or Shitter Sanders. Like, maybe it's Quinn Ewers. Who knows?
First pick to a team that needs a quarterback, and that's not the Patriots. So they will trade down. But yes, these are your people. You people are your people. You created them. You created a monster you can no longer control, and the monster has turned on you.
Unbelievable. I try. So I've been preaching, begging for Patriots positivity for weeks, months, days, now a year. And this is what we get. Honest to God, shame on everyone. And you know what? Hey, guess what, folks? Yeah, Foxborough frauds, my ass. Listen, Andy, I'll tell you what. If you see a team that goes out there this year and they finish 2-15, God forbid, but they're in every game, and Jalen Polk looks like he might be a wide receiver 1. He looks like he might be a Amari Cooper and then some. Javon Baker doesn't give you a fantasy football worthy season, but you see 11 to 20 different kinds of catches where it's like that catch radius, that playmaking ability, that score, that nose for the end zone, that dog. Get excited. If Drake Maye looks to be the part, and it's going to take another year for him to develop into our version, the Ocean State job lot, Josh Allen, then you should be freaking psyched about this. And if they stay healthy and you believe Jerod Mayo is a good coach, then yeah, if they end up picking first overall next year, they trade it like the Bears did to a Carolina team that offers them way too much. You're going to reset. You're going to get that Godfather offer, and your team's going to be in it to win it for a long time. So again, a little perspective goes a long way, my Foxborough friends.
Yeah, I don't think there's perspective and nuance on Twitter. It's just angry reaction.
Shithole.
It really is. But I like to I like to roll around with the pigs every once in a while.
I've noticed. Anyway, I got dragged into that mud, and I didn't like it. If I'm going to get in the mud, it should be of my own choice and volition. I thank you very little. Great podcast today, Hart. We covered a lot of ground. Hope everybody enjoyed it. This has been the latest Six Rings in football things. Our thanks to our guest in the first half today, Eric Edholm from NFL.com. You can follow him at Eric_Edholm. He's at Jumbo Hart. I'm at Fitzy GFY. Great job putting this all together, as always, Justin Turpin. Andy, I am not on the radio this weekend. Will they find you on the frequency modulation?
Thursday night with the Rich Keefe show, and I think that's it. But I live day to day,
we'll be doing our. We wish Mike Cadlick very well in his future endeavors, and already miss him around here. But we'll be doing the best we can to fill in for him along the way as well. Hope you guys enjoyed the pod today. Give us a shout. Make sure to follow at Six Rings Pod. Like, share, subscribe, smash that button, and tell your friends to join the fastest growing Patriots positive community out there. For Hart, for Fitzy, for everyone at EEI, Odyssey, and 2400 Sports, this has been Six Rings of Football Things. Good day, God bless, and as always, go Pats.